So we're going to talk about the perceptual grid, which mainly deals with placement, the placement of objects. You have probably been doing gesture drawings and even checking angles and noticing maybe you drew that box or bottle a little too far to the left, or something is above or below where you would like for it to be. The vertical and horizontal grid, the XY axis, human beings naturally possess an innate predisposition towards the vertical and horizontal, meaning we tend to be standing up and moving in an upright position or sleeping. And the landscape itself, think about the horizon line is horizontal, and then trees, buildings, etc., tend to be vertical. So we're going to take a look at the XY axis and how it applies to drawing. So in here, whoever's making the drawing has held up a ruler. We will be using our pencil. And notice the left edge of it in particular lines up with that bottom edge of that cube. It goes up slightly and hits the corner of that, was it a quarter circle? I'm not sure exactly what that shape is. And then it lines up with the cylinder above that. It just happens to have done that. That's good information to know. In this slide, the top corner of the cube lines up with the bottom corner of the cube on the right-hand side. Other good information to know. We will be using our pencil as a drawing and siding tool to make this happen. So you'll be holding your pencil up to your still life, and vertically or horizontally. You don't have to worry about angles in this particular tool. We'll call it the Mondrian tool because of Piet Mondrian, the painter. And we're going to do sort of a scan from the bottom and top. It doesn't matter which direction, and left to right. And the next slide should do this, then I will explain further. Okay, so a grid doesn't have to be a perfect grid overlaid on your objects or on your drawing. These lines, each one of them, show how certain areas of the objects line up with other objects. You know, the top of or the corner of a cube happens to line up with sort of a top part of a bottle, or the beginning of a neck of a bottle cuts through the middle of another bottle, or the side of a cylinder goes down and lines up with the side of another object. And these can be done. You could do them systematically, and that would be helpful. However, I find that the tops and bottoms and sides of objects are good places to start. So here is a drawing, a gesture drawing, they've done their gesture, they've checked their angles, and now they are checking their placement. And you can see they are actually physically drawing these lines onto their drawing. And what you'll do is you'll do all this lightly to see what lines up with what. And some things will not line up, and you will have to shift and move all of the work that you've done already in your gesture. That's why I say don't attach yourself too much to your initial gesture and correction of angles, because you may have to move a whole object. Here's another example. So for instance, look at the top part of the mayonnaise jar. It's cutting through slightly above the middle of the box and right through the middle of that bowl. If you can hold your pencil up to the still life that you're drawing, and then check your actual drawing, and it's not in that way, then that means one or two or even three of the objects have to be shifted and moved. Not sure exactly what's going on here, other than it's showing that the lines are going to a vanishing point, but just from an extreme eye level point of view. I'm not sure why this slide is in here, honestly. So here the person is using their Mondrian tool, their pencil, and about to begin lining things up and then checking them with their drawing. In this particular case, the lines are very light. That's kind of up to you whether they're light or heavy. Here's another drawing using the Mondrian lines. It seems as if the more that you use, the more placement becomes desired. So think about how many, use 15 or 20 of them, and don't be afraid that they're going to mess up your paper. Ultimately, they're going to make your drawing even more interesting. For instance, this drawing. This is my favorite drawing of this whole bunch, and people always look at me like I'm insane. And the reason I like it is because look at the amount of corrections this person has made. And they stuck with this drawing. They just stuck with it. I can see at least 10 different areas where they've drawn this chair. And you can see their grid lines. You can see they're searching. This drawing has a lot of energy. Here's another person who may have got there a little bit quicker. And it's a nice drawing. Particularly with the Mondrian line, you can see where the back of the chair goes down to the big wheel. The handlebars of the big wheel. That's kind of a nice touch because this helps whoever is making the drawing understand what they're doing. This is my other favorite drawing of this bunch for totally different reasons. It is not that energetic, but look at how sturdy it is. It's like very confident and sturdy. Nice thick lines coming forward, thin lines going back. Way in the back, they kind of change up. And you can like a drawing or two different drawings for two very different reasons. Don't think about moving. Parallax is that goofy thing where when you were a kid and you opened one eye and closed the other one and then switch and open the other one and close the other one and did that back and forth a whole bunch of times, which in my mind is free entertainment if you don't have a lot of money. But in reality, you're drawing different drawings. If you switch over to your left foot and start drawing and then switch over to your right foot, it changes. So here the person has their imaginary viewfinder and they're looking to see what lines up with what. So there the corner of the bottle lines up with the corner of that box, which lines up with the front middle of that table. It just happened to be that way. It may not actually be that way with what you set up. Don't expect that things are going to line up, but sometimes they will. Another example of a drawing. Look at how dark and heavy those lines are coming forward. It's pretty heavy-handed, but the space is still convincing. They lighten things up going in the back, and they use their Mondrian grid lines to establish placement. Here's another one. Do not be afraid of your drawings being messy. I will not count off for messy drawings as long as they are intentional and they have purpose. This one's very interesting too. I'm just going to kind of cut through some of these so that you can see. I want to see the grid lines. Show the grid lines. More grid lines. Here's another kind of fascinating drawing, almost because it's so abstract. There's probably boxes or a chair there, but this person almost made their subject grid lines, things are convincingly going back in space. They could lighten some of these things up more, but look at the use of grid lines. A better job on this one, better on this one, much better on this one. Look at the line variation. Look at how they fade things going back in space. The bicycle is coming forward. The block of cheese down at the bottom is heavy and weighted. The lamp is heavy. The lamp in the far back is way back there. This is a great example as well. Grid lines, checking their 1-point perspective. The atmospheric perspective is beautiful in this one. The ladder and everything is coming towards us. The lamp and the podium are going back in space. Another example. This is where I want us to get to. It may take us a little while, but that's okay. Don't be afraid of using a lot of grid lines. Use them, many of them. And the other thing is, don't be too attached to an object to where it becomes a pain in the butt to have to move it. Especially if you've done a good job on it. You may have to get rid of it and shift it and move it up or down or left or right. This is one reason I say do your gesture work, check your angles, find your placement, and make that all happen before you ever get too attached or judge your drawing or think that your drawing's where it needs to be, and you get to where you resist making the changes. Stay open to making the changes all the way until the drawing is finished. And here's one of those odd slides that just say picture plane. I have no idea what that's there for.